thank you for joining us. I'm Joy.
And I'm Laura.
And this is The Witches of Letters, a supernatural rewatch podcast.
Buckle up as we dive into Season 2, Episode 12, Nightshifter. What did you think of this one?
So, we were talking about it a little bit beforehand, and Laura was like, she was like, I don't love it necessarily. I don't hate it. She was like, it could be worse. I think her exact words were, it could be worse.
I didn't actually mind it. I thought it was better than some of the ones we've had recently. Yeah.
Yeah. Season 2 is questionable. I was loving it until the FBI turned up, I think. I think at around that point, that's when I just started to get annoyed. Because here's the thing as well, is as the Easter egg person, I get aggravated when they repeat monsters and also plots, because then it's like, what Easter egg am I supposed to talk about? I've done doppelgangers. I've done shapeshifters already. I couldn't remember if I'd covered silver in mythology. I think I just did a little soundbite about it. So I was like, what do I do? How do I not repeat myself? Because they're repeating themselves so hardcore.
Yeah.
And also it felt like it was so good and funny and entertaining. And then I felt like it got really lazy. There were just things that upset me. How about you?
Yeah, I didn't like that FBI guy. I started off really liking it, so I think I did like it overall. I liked that it's a Monster of the Week episode that's separate from the main storyline again, because I love a Monster of the Week.
We do. We love it.
I felt like it ended very abruptly, though, to the point where I think at the end of my notes I've written, "Is this a two-parter?" ? But it doesn't look like it is. And yeah, but on some good things, I liked how it reminded me of the X-Files again, like an X-Files episode, and also it had some Die Hard vibes, which I liked.
It's Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah. I think it's just like the heisty bit, but then there's a bit at the end actually that I'm gonna mention that reminded me of Die Hard.
Yeah. I do agree that it's very X-Files. I agree that it's very X-Files. It gave me hard X-File vibes. And I even felt like the first cop that we meet, I had some witty banter about him because it was so X-Files.
I think we might have the same thing to say.
I think we might.
But also, I did find a fun fact of a link to the X-Files on IMDb. So now I didn't think it reminded me of any specific episodes. It just had an X-Files vibe, like it has in the past.
Agree.
But apparently it does. Right, so this is what it says on IMDb. I don't know why I'm trying to paraphrase. I'll just read it. It says, contains many allusions to the X-Files episode. Oh, how do you say this? Is it Folie?
I can't see it spelled out, so I don't know.
It's Folie. It's definitely it means madness of two.
Folie.
Yeah. Anyway, that including the basic plot, which is a man holding people hostage in order to protect them from a monster, and Resnick being a character's last name as well. So I don't remember this episode. I did look up a little recap thing, and I was like, nope. But apparently it's, I don't know where I found this. Oh, on the wiki for X-Files on fandom.com, and it says Mulder, along with several other people, is held hostage by an office employee who's convinced that his boss is a monster who has turned several of his co-workers into zombies. When the ordeal ends, Mulder also believes that the man was not simply crazy and that the boss was actually a monster. So I was like, oh, okay. So I suppose it just reminds them of that because it's like a heist.
Yeah.
Or the hostage situation. But yeah.
That makes sense. Because the whole time I was like, this is very, very, very X-Files.
Yeah.
So I can totally see why people went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Also, in this episode, I kept expecting Dean, not Dean, the shapeshifter to turn into Dean again. Because they kept repeating things. And you know the bit where you see at the start in the opening where Dean brings out the hostage? I thought, oh, that's the shapeshifter, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of theories. There were a lot of red herrings. I had a lot of theories about who the shapeshifter actually was. So that's
Yeah.
cool. I also loved this is the episode where we have that blooper from where Jared says, I said Juan.
Oh, yeah.
Because when they were filming this episode, he pronounced it correctly. Like a Mexican accent is it's Juan, right? It's like an HW
Yeah.
sound instead of just saying
Mhm.
Juan. Um, but he had like everybody cracks up. He just goes, it was Juan. And then he's like, I said Juan. And everybody dies. That was so, so funny. And then also there's the part where Jensen turns into Scooby-Doo briefly, where he because there's that line where he says, you did a good job, Ron. But he goes, you did a good job, and then realizes and then goes, fuck. And then walks away laughing, and then all of the crew is cracking up. And the guy who's playing oh, what's his name? Ronald is like
Yeah.
laughing even though he's supposed to be a corpse. It's so funny. I love the outtakes so much. They give me life.
Yeah. I think there was some funny bits. I think we're gonna have some funny things to say as well as just getting
Yeah.
silly at the end.
I think it's gonna be really funny. I also think
Yeah.
that my rants are entertaining. I have 2 rants for this episode. One of them small, very small, and one of them like medium, I guess.
Yeah. Love a rant. I'm feeling
We
a bit
do.
grumpy today as well, so that will be fun.
Yeah, kinda same. Kind of same. Too many
This might be
things in too
interesting.
short a span of time. Just know it will be interesting. Yeah.
Should I do my synopsis story?
Yes, please, Laura.
So this is season 2, episode 12, Nightshifter. The original air date for this episode was January 25th, 2007. Sam and Dean investigate a string of robberies at banks and jewellery stores where an employee robs the place and then seemingly dies by suicide. They pretend to be FBI agents and interview a man called Ron who has a conspiracy theory about the robberies. He thinks it's some sort of robot man hybrid he calls a mandroid, as he's caught the eyes of one of the robbers on a security camera looking like lasers. Sam and Dean realise this is actually a shapeshifter from their encounter with one in the episode Skin, season 1, episode 6. They work out where the next robbery might be based on the sewer system that the shapeshifter has likely made its lair, which is another bank, and pretend to work for the security system company so they can use the surveillance cameras to find the shapeshifter. However, when they work this out, Ron, who is sick of not being taken seriously, decides that an armed hostage situation is a better idea and takes the whole bank, including Sam and Dean, hostage. Dean explains to Ron that they believe him and convinces him they need to work together to find the shapeshifter. The boys and Ron work together, but every time they work out who the shapeshifter is, it takes another victim and changes. During this time, the police have also surrounded the place and shot Ron, and an FBI agent who is after Dean because of his apparent crimes in St. Louis and Baltimore orders a SWAT team to go in and get him. Dean eventually finds the shapeshifter and kills it, but Sam and Dean have to attack 2 SWAT team members so they can steal their clothes and escape before the FBI agent catches them.
Yes.
Yeah.
My favorite part is the mandroid part.
Mandroid.
It's so funny. So I thought it's interesting how in season 2 the intros and outros have some kind of meaning. Like they're like aware that they're pulling on the previous story thread and they
Yeah.
have no shame. So the scenes from both Skin and the usual suspects and all of the shapeshifter stuff is what we open to. And then we cut to Channel 8 breaking news and they start giving the police report about the bank robbery and we get the setup that we're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
I quite
And
liked that, how it cut into the intro with like the breaking news bulletin thing.
yeah, it was super dramatic but very realistic. Like it looked like a real news report and I like
Yeah.
that. So then we hear someone say no, don't shoot, don't shoot. And then you hear Dean saying no, 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 don't even think about it. Get the hell back. I love him. And then the camera closes in on 2 men exiting the bank, which is the terrified security guard and Dean, who pushes the other man in front of him while he's holding a rifle. And honestly, that does not look good. You know, you're like
No.
concerned. And then you get the title card. And that's like the end of
Yeah.
the teaser because they're like, then the next title card is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1 day ago. So you go, okay, they're chopping and changing time again.
Yeah.
So it's the interior of a jewelry store, and we have an attractive young woman who's named Franny coming out of the back with some papers. And Dean turns to talk to her. Um, and Franny says, so what's it like being an FBI guy? And Dean says, well, it's dangerous. And the secrets we've got to keep. Oh, God, the secrets. But mostly it's lonely. And I was like, really? Because I felt like it lacked game, you know? Like it just
Yeah.
felt like bad game, honestly, but whatever. He's very pretty, so it works anyway. And Franny's like, I so know what you mean. And Dean's like, yeah. And it's like, bitch, you're working at a jewelry store. How do you know? I mean, he's lying, but how do you know? I don't know. So Sam, who's also here, and also this is a thirst trap. Everybody's in suits. It's a thirst
Mhm.
trap, okay? And his
And
hair is
Sam's hair looks
slicked.
really nice.
Hot. Okay, hot. Um, so the manager's explaining about the person that they're investigating, saying that Helena was a head buyer and she was like family. She was at the Christmas party every year. And Sam says that were there ever any signs that she would do something like this? And the manager says no, absolutely not, and says that everything was basically completely normal and he has no idea. And so then Sam's asking about when Helena took the security guard's gun, and the manager says she shot him in the face. I heard him die over the phone. The thing
Oh,
is
nice.
like, here's the thing. This actor was so rehearsed, like that I could not take him seriously. He no disrespect, but I was listening to Patti LuPone give an interview, and she was talking about working with someone who was so rehearsed that there was like no joy, there was no spontaneity. They didn't like believe what they were saying at all. It was just like they've looked in a mirror and worked out exactly what they're going to do to camera.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, I was trying to picture what that would look like, and I just couldn't relate it to anything I'd seen. But this man's performance is that. Um so I couldn't stop giggling because he was saying horrible things, but it was so rehearsed that I couldn't take it seriously. Um so then the manager says, what motive? It makes no sense. Why steal all those diamonds, all that jewelry, and then what? Just dump it somewhere, just hide it and go home. And then Dean's saying she killed herself. And because it cuts across. And Fernie says, well, the cop said she dropped the hairdryer in the bath and fried herself. They should know, right? And Dean goes, yeah. But he says yes so sarcastically because he hates the cops. And it's hilarious to me. And he says, well, thanks, Franny. I think that's all I need. And Franny says, really? Because I've got more, you know. And then she looks around and she goes, if you wanted to interview me sometime in private.
She
Oh,
definitely wants
man.
more.
Oh, she wants more, and, like, who can blame her? But there's something about her that, like, usually I'm like, "Yeah, you and me both, girl," when girls are flirting with Dean, but her, there's some it just I went, "No, stop it." So, Dean looks at Sam across the room, and he says, "Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good idea. You're a true patriot," at which point I could not laugh out loud. You
This was
really
funny though,
are.
because when he looked at Sam, in like a bit of a shifty way, because he knows that Sam will disapprove if he catches him getting a girl's number when they're on a job.
Yeah. Well, Sam would also be like, "She thinks you're an FBI agent and you're not, and it's lying and it's wrong." And Dave would be like, "What are morals?"
It's wrong.
Yeah. "You can't do that. It's wrong." Yeah. So, it cuts to Sam and the manager, and Sam's saying that he never saw the manager never saw the security footage himself. And the manager says, "No, the
Yeah.
police took all the tapes first thing." And Dean's like, "Yeah, of course they did." Again, his hatred continues.
Bloody cops. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "Ugh, the fuzz." So they leave the jewelry store and they're in the Impala and they're on this dark street at night and they pull up in front of a house. And Sam's saying that this is the place. And Dean's going, friggin' cops. And Sam's like, they're just doing their job, Dean. And Dean's like, no, they're doing our job, only they don't know it, so they suck at it.
I put in my notes, I put, it's so funny how he hates cops, even when there's no reason. ACAB is just his default.
100%. Also, I wrote down that sentence sums up the entire plot of this episode, that the cops are just doing their
Yeah.
job, but they're actually doing their job, but they don't know that they're doing their job, and therefore they are terrible. Like, they
Yeah.
make everything so much worse.
So as they walk up to the front door, Sam is telling Dean about another robbery, this time at a bank, where the perpetrator was also an employee and also seemingly died by suicide after. And this is Ron's house. So it's Ronald Resnick, who was the guard on duty at the time, who was beaten up by the robber. Um, they knock, and then, oh yeah, the really bright lights go on and blind them. That was funny.
Yeah, yeah.
And Ron comes to the door. Sam tells him they're FBI, and he asks to see their badges, which they show him in like a really funny way. They just slam them against the screen door.
But in perfect unison, and I wrote
Yeah.
10 out of 10, this is a thirst trap. And then also I have to tell you guys, so I played this for Laura, but I found an interview with Jensen at a con talking about one of their camera operators. His name is Brad Creaser. And he was saying that every single time they do stuff, like they just do stuff in unison generally. They think alike, they spend so much time together, they can kind of finish each other's thoughts.
That's
And
really
so
cute.
it just happens sometimes. And he said that anytime they do anything in unison on the show, Brad goes, "Oh, I love it when they do that." And then he said that anytime that they, as Sam and Dean in character, fight, after the take is finished, Brad will be like, "I hate it when they argue." I just feel like that's so wholesome and exactly how we
Yeah.
tend to feel. So I love that so much. And I'm sure he got a thrill out of the in unison badge move.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm.
So Ron says he already gave his statement to the police, and Dean says they just want some clarification about a few things. And Ron seems surprised that they would want to hear what he has to say if they read his statement. So that to me was like, well, we know this is going to be good. And by good, we mean batshit crazy.
Entertaining and insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote down that he has a Fox Mulder crazy conspiracy theory board house. Like, it's not even just like one side of his apartment, it's everything. And there's aliens everywhere. And like, he has this um weird magazine that's like, you know the ones that's like the Inquisitor, where they're like, Elvis is actually alive and we saw him here.
Yeah.
Elvis was abducted by aliens and he's been walking around. That kind of weird shit. It's that stuff, okay? That's his Bible. All right?
Yeah.
He is very naive and very very gullible, okay? He's a sweet precious baby angel, but he has no common sense.
No.
And so he's saying none of the cops ever called me back, not after I told them what was really going on. They all thought I was crazy. First off, Juan Morales never robbed the Milwaukee National Trust, okay? That I guarantee. See, me and Juan were friends. He used to come back to the bank on my night shifts and we'd play cards. And Sam's like, this is where the dislike of Sam starts. Okay, Sam, who's usually so smooth and so charming. Sam says, so you let him in the bank that night after hours. And he says it kind of mildly accusingly.
Yeah.
And Ronald's like, the thing I let into the bank wasn't Juan. I mean, it had his face, but it wasn't his face. Every detail was perfect, but too perfect. You know, like if a doll maker made it, like I was talking to a big Juan doll. And Sam
I
goes,
like this guy because he's so intense and like has like crazy eyes, but I really like
he's
him. He's
great.
funny.
Yeah, he's great. And Sam goes, a Juan doll? And you can see Sam just shutting down. Like, this bitch is crazy. So Ronald says, look, this wasn't the only time this happened, okay? And then he hands Sam this massive folder. There was this jewelry store too, and the cops, and you guys just won't see it. And so Sam looks into the folder, and it looks kind of like a hunter profile. And Sam says, what's that, Mr. Resnick? And Ronald picks up a copy of a magazine called 14 Times and holds it to his chest. And the headline is The Birth of the Cyberman. And my brain automatically started playing the Doctor Who music in my head.
Yeah. It was definitely a Doctor Who Cyberman.
Yeah. And Ronald says the Chinese have been working on him for years, and the Russians before that. Part man, part machine, like the Terminator. But the kind that can change itself and make itself look like other people. Now, I know I said that in a redneck way, but it had to be, okay? That was such a redneck speech. I can't help myself. Sometimes it just needs to be Southern. And Dean is smirking, and he says, like, the one from T2. And you can see that Dean and this guy
Dean
are
loves
low-key
it.
vibing. He
Yeah.
does, he loves it. And Ronald goes, "Exactly. See, so it's not just a robot, it's more of a man droid." I
Mandroid.
died. Oh, it was so good. At this point in the episode, I was just riding the dopamine wave because this is hilarious. So Dean says, "And what makes you so sure about this, Ronald?" And Ronald holds up a finger and he smiles like the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland, like unhinged. And it cuts to Ronald putting a VHS tape in that's labeled MNT camera for Juan into his VHS player because this is a long time ago, children, and we used to do things like that. And Ronald says, "See, I made copies of all the security tapes. I knew once the cops got them, they'd be buried." And Dean nods along, like, "Yep, that's true." It's great. The whole it's just shade. So he fast forwards and he says, "Watch, watch, watch him, watch. See, look, there it is." And he's like, you know, the old black and white monster movies where like Dr. Frankenstein is unhinged. He's like that.
Yeah.
And he says, "You see, he's got the laser eyes."
Laser eyes.
Oh God, I love it so much. So then it closes in on the video camera, and we see the like shapeshifter silver flashing eyes. And Sam and Dean give each other the look of like it's obviously a shifter.
Yeah,
Um,
they know.
and Ronald goes off on a rant about how the cop said that it was just a camera flare, and then he's like, "The android is still out there. The law won't hunt this thing down. I'll do it myself. You see this thing? It kills the real person, makes it look like a suicide. Then it sort of morphs into that person. Okay, this is the job for a while until it knows the take is fat, and then it finds its opening. Now these robberies, they're grouped together, and then he shows them the map. So I figure the mandroid is holed up somewhere in the middle, underground. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's where it recharges its mandroid batteries." And Jane
He's
looks
so excited
impressed.
in this bit. He looks so excited to like be talking to people who believe him.
He is, and that's why it's so crushing when Sam is like, "No."
Yeah. He bursts his bubble.
He does. So Sam says, "Okay, I want you to listen very carefully." And we kind of think that he's going to be like, "This is real." But he's going to correct him. No.
Yeah.
Sam says,
I
"I want
think
you to
Dean
listen very."
thinks that as well. I
Yeah, he
think Dean
does. He
thinks he's gonna
leans
do
in
that.
like, "It's all fine. We're all friends here." But Sam goes, "Because I'm about to tell you the God's honest truth about all of this." And then there's a long pause, and Dean's smiling, and he says, "There's no such thing as mandroids. There's nothing evil or inhuman going on out there, just people, nothing else, you understand?" And Dean is like, "The fuck, bro?" And Ronald looks desperate at him, and he just says, "The laser eyes." And Sam says, "It's just a camera flare, Mr. Resnick. See, I know you don't want to believe this, but your friend Juan," this is where he's like, your friend Juan robbed the bank, and that's it." And then Ronald starts screaming, "Get out of my house." And
He
Sam's
looks
like,
really
"Sure."
upset as
He's
well.
so this poor man. And
Sam was
Sam's,
basically the Men in Black in this scene.
he actually was. And then he says, "First things first," but he says it kind of menacingly. And Dean is like, "Again, what is wrong with you?" And Sam confiscates the videotape because in the next
Yeah.
scene, they're in the motel. Okay. Which I am low key obsessed with. Like, this is my lore moment. Okay. Because it's bar themed. And there are literal beer bottles and like tap signs, the little bits you put on the front of a pull tap to identify what beer is in it, as
Yeah.
like a fucking art installation, like a wall of it. And I just wrote down, "This is everything," and I would live here.
See, you didn't like themed ones, and I normally like themed ones, and I was like, "This is weird."
That's just typical for us. The
And I
one
was just,
time. The
it's
one time I
too
like it,
much.
you hate it. Yeah. This is too
Um,
much. How is this too much? Oh my, I'm not gonna do it. Breathe. Don't blow out the mic. It's fine. I just
let
crushed
me
my
find
can
my
of
actual
Coke.
note. What did I put? I put something about the hotel somewhere. Oh yeah, I just wrote, "What the hell is this beer themed motel? This is weird even for me."
Unbelievable, Laura. Betrayal. Betrayal.
It was funny how Dean tells Sam that, well, he's basically telling him he was mean and that it's
Yeah.
creepy that he makes a convincing Fed.
Yeah. 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 He says, "I mean, you tell that poor son of a bitch that what did you say? Remand the tapes that he copied?" And he says, "I think it's a little creepy how good of a Fed you are. I mean, come on. We could have at least thrown the guy a bone. He did some pretty good legwork here." And Sam turns around and lifts an eyebrow
Yeah.
and is like, "Mandroid?" And and then Dean goes, "Except for the mandroid part. I liked him. He's not that different from you or me. People think we're crazy." And then you start to sympathize with Sam's logic a little bit because he says, "Yeah, except he's not a hunter, Dean. He's just a guy who stumbled onto something real. If he were to go up against this thing, he'd get torn apart. Better to stay in the dark and stay alive." And I was like, "Oh." And Dean's like, yeah, I guess." So we were on the same page there. Um, so Dean agrees, obviously, with his logic and is trying to figure out where the lair is. So he's doing an overlay over the map to figure out the pattern
Yeah.
of where it has to be.
Mhm.
Um, then they're playing the tape and they're saying that it's the same as what happened in St. Louis because on the camera you see the like eye flare thing.
He says it's the same retinal reaction to video, which I thought was funny.
That was hilarious. Um, and Dean says, "I hate those friggin' things." And Sam's like, "You think I don't?" And Dean says, "Yeah, well, one didn't turn into you and frame you for murder." And that made me laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they basically agree that it probably has to do with the sewer. And Dean says that the main sewer layout lines up with multiple banks. And there's another bank that's lined up that hasn't been hit yet. So that's how they know which one to go to.
Yeah. And then we cut to that bank.
We do.
And Sam and Dean are now dressed up as workers from the security company. And they say there's been a glitch in the overall grid, so they're there to check the security monitors are working properly. And the man leads them to the room with all the security monitors and leaves them to it. Oh, and this is the this is the okie dokie man, isn't it? Because he says
Yeah.
okie dokie, and Dean says I like him. He says okie dokie. And I say okie dokie a lot.
Yeah, I do too. I thought that was adorable. He's so like cute and cheerful when he says it too.
Yeah,
Um
and they just keep calling him Mr. Okie dokie later as well.
they do. It's great. So Sam is saying maybe we should just go back to the sewers and because Dean is busy zooming one of the cameras in on the ass of a woman who is bending over.
Yeah,
And
he's being a
I wrote
massive perv.
down, "You are fired. You're fired, Dean. I do not care for this." And Sam says, "You're supposed to be looking at eyes." And I wrote, "I love you, Sammy. Okay, I love you. Thank you." And Dean says, "I'm getting there." And I was like, "Again, you're fired, Dean." And Sam says, "Oh, yeah." And then Dean says, "Wait a minute." And then another man walks on screen and there's a lens flare of his eyeballs being all silver and evil and shapeshiftery. And Dean says, "Hello, freak."
He loves calling people freaks.
He does. He really does. It's his favorite slur.
So Dean says, hello, freak. Sam says, we got him. And then Sam gets up to run out, but Dean calls him back as he sees Ron on the camera padlocking all of the doors closed. And he goes to the main area in the bank, shoots his gun, and shouts, "This is not a robbery." It's like, okay, Ron, people
It's one
aren't
of
going to
my
be listening
favorite
to you.
lines ever. He says this was not a robbery. Everybody on the floor now.
Oh, dear.
He's
Um,
such an idiot.
so he makes all the hostages get on the floor in the middle of the room. Sam and Dean walk in from the room that they were in to where he is, and loads of people are running past them going the opposite way to get away from Ron. Oh yeah, and Dean is chiding Sam for not letting him bring a gun, and tells him to
Mhm.
let Dean do the talking as Ron doesn't like Sam very much. This is funny because then
It's
later on he's like, "I don't like
hilarious.
you."
It's
um,
great. He also says Agent Johnson in a tone, and you need to know that Johnson is slang for dick in America to understand why that's so funny. He's just called him Agent Dick.
oh, and then so when Ron sees them, he looks really confused for a second, and then really, really angry, and he's like, "I knew you guys weren't FBI. Who are you?" And then he asks if
Yeah.
they're the Men in Black, which is funny.
I thought it was really adorable how he says, "Get on the floor," and Dean says, "Okay, we're doing that. Just don't shoot anybody, especially us." He says it, and it's
Yeah.
so cute the way that he says it. It was adorable. It was an adorable trap.
So then he asks if they're working for the Mandroid. And because he's brought that up again, Sam can't help himself and starts shouting back that they're not working for the Mandroid. But Ron cuts him off and he's like, "You shut up. I ain't talking to you. I don't like you." And Dean shoots Sam a look that says, "I told you."
Yeah, no, he does, and it's so funny. I love it so, so much.
Yeah, it sounds like fair enough.
Yep.
So then he gets another hostage to pat them down to check they haven't got any weapons, and then he finds a knife that Dean brought in inside his boot. I remember that bit of where he goes, "Just my boots. What's in the first in the
Oh,
pilot?"
yeah, he says, "Is there anything real about you, son?" And Dee just goes, "My boots,
My boots.
my boots."
So this is where Dean's trying to reason with him, and he tells Ron that they believe him. That's why they're there. But Ron doesn't agree and says no one believes him. How could they? And Dean asks Ron to come here. He's like, "Come here," and he's like, no." And he's like, "I just want to tell you something." So he gets a little bit closer. And Dean whispers that it's the bank manager. He says they were monitoring the cameras and saw the bank manager's eyes change. And Ron's like, "His laser eyes?"
Yeah.
And Dean's like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "No, we're running out of time. We've got to find him before he changes." So Dean tells Ron to take him as a hostage, but they've got to be fast. And he
Yeah.
manages to convince Ron. Um, and Ron makes everyone else get into the vault first, though, including Sam.
He is giving Sam the most filthy looks the entire time too. It is
He
awesome.
hates him.
He hates him so hard.
So, in this next bit, why exactly did you think it was funny that the police officer was just like walking past as if there wasn't a whole police presence outside? He's just kind of walking past as if he's just, "I'm just walking down this street, just looking in
It's
the bank."
odd. It's odd because, like, the impression that you have is that he's just a lone guard and that everything's gonna be okay,
Yeah,
and I know why they did it. They're trying to build tension for us as an audience. So, like, we see him looking at the chain and be like, "Oh, this is sus," and then he walks away, and the
yeah.
camera pans out, and there's, like, fucking 16 cop cars there, like it's
It's
some kind
like,
of fucking terrorist situation.
yeah,
Well, the
I suppose it
escalation
kind of
was
is.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was
um,
just so fast and weird.
yeah. And it's literally just for like a second, because then we cut back to
Yeah.
Ron, and he's making all the hostages get in the vault and getting Dean to close it. And as he closes the door, he tells all the hostages, "It's okay, everyone, stay cool." And a woman inside, who's we find out
Sherry.
later is called
Yeah.
Sherry. She says,
Yeah.
"Who is that man?" Sounds like he's my brother. And she goes, "He's so brave," and it's like a proper swoon. And Sam rolls his eyes, which I thought was hilarious.
Sam is so annoyed. And I was like, I feel like Sam is thinking that it was her butt that Dean was checking out and that that's
Oh,
who her
maybe.
hero is. Like, and how ironic it is. So, like, I felt like it's a mix between he's struck out with Ron, who hates him and has
Yeah.
no charm. And now he's used to having the charm with girls of this type, right? And she's just like, "Oh my god, you're a brother. Who is that man?" Um, and he has to be like, "He's
Yeah.
my brother." It's so funny. It's great. Because she's not swooning at him at all. It's all Dean.
Yeah.
Um,
I did have a fun fact here. The vault
okay,
scenes were an actual vault because it was too difficult to build one on set. That was from IMDb.
that makes sense.
So, a proper vault.
Yeah. I would have been really uncomfortable. I would have been thinking, what if it doesn't open again? What if something goes
Yeah.
wrong and they can't
I
get
wouldn't
me
have wanted
out?
to be shut in a vault, no.
Nope. I don't care for that at all.
So Dean and Ron go to the bank manager's office, and Ron just slips over straight away. He slips on goo and screams when he realizes what it is. It's just
Yeah.
disgusting because it's the gross shapeshifter goo because he's changed.
Blech.
Um, Although it's not as realistic as it was in Skin. This one, it didn't
They
really
didn't
look
go as
like
hard.
people
Yeah.
goo. Yeah,
There was more clothing on top of it and stuff this time. It was a little bit more PG. Yeah.
yeah, and the skin was like really, I don't know, it just looked like white rubber.
I think FX, because Ronald's line is, "It's so, so weird. It's robot skin is so lifelike." I think FX tried to make it look like a Terminator shed or something.
Yeah. And so Dean explains to him that it's shed its skin, so now it could be anyone. And Ron picks up some of the skin and sniffs it, and I just wrote, "Why?" with a sick face.
What?
And
Oh, I forgot about that. Or maybe I blocked it out. Yeah. Oh,
oh, this is where he says that it's lifelike. Um, and Dean's had enough of all the robot crap at this point and says, let's get something straight. It's not a mandroid, it's a shapeshifter, and then explains what it is to Ron and says that silver is the only thing that seems to hurt them.
yeah. So, when he does that, he says, "You remember the old werewolf stories? Pretty much came from these guys. Silver's the only thing that I've ever seen that hurts them." And this is where my Easter egg comes in because I have a rant
Ooh.
later about how they're repeating themselves. So, like, it's difficult
Yeah.
for me for the lore and stuff because I've already done it all because I did it
Yeah.
for the first one. So I had to like really pick and choose what we were going to cover. So I decided we would talk about how the lore links into the story. So the first fun fact that I have for you guys is about silver and why it is that ancient civilizations all around the world think that silver can kill monsters. So, silver has been associated with magic and mysticism for many reasons, including its antimicrobial properties, its connection to the moon, and its use in ancient cultures. The antimicrobial properties, they theorize that it might have been thought to repel evil spirits because, similar to garlic, it would break down and kill infections. So it could be seen to like
Oh, yeah.
heal people. And because diseases and other things were thought to be caused by evil spirits, people thought it was driving away the evil spirits, right? So you
Yeah.
get an association between silver and, to a lesser extent, in certain areas of the world, gold. So like silver becomes, in specific places like Egypt, silver becomes more special than gold. Like it's more rare in that area, therefore it
Yeah.
becomes more highly regarded.
And you get
So
silver and stuff in like plasters and things now.
you do, like, colloidal silver and other things like that, because we know that it kills germs, it kills bacteria,
Yeah.
um, and it helps keep things clean. So it's fascinating to me. So it's long been regarded to have a connection to the moon, and in folklore, silver is the metal of the moon and is associated with lunar meanings and properties. Uses in ancient cultures extend to spiritual, medicinal, and symbolic purposes. So that association to the moon makes it further holy because lots of ancient cultures really revered the moon, and had very important lunar deities. So it says,
Hmm.
for example, the ancient Egyptians used to use silver jewelry and amulets to ward off negative energies. It was a symbol of purity and protection, and has maintained that symbolism for centuries. So, because of its pale color, the Egyptians associated it with the moon, as opposed to the golden sun, right? So, gold is often associated with the sun, silver is often associated with the moon. And therefore, it was considered to have ritual purity and to be like tied to the bones of the gods. So, if you think of bones as like white, paler things, and the idea was that they had golden flesh and silver bones. So, literally, it was considered a material of the gods. So when we think about things like the werewolf myth and like what could be strong enough to kill something that has that much power, um, it starts to make a lot more sense when you understand the context throughout time and history.
Yeah.
So then the synopsis on silver goes on to say that it has such a long history of ceremonial and religious significance and is prominent in religious ceremonies across so many different cultures. Um, it's not uncommon to find silver vessels used in ceremonies symbolizing purity and connection to the divine. So, for example, some ritualistic objects made of silver are integral to spiritual practices, and they are believed to carry the blessings of the deities and enhance the efficiency of the religious rites that are being performed. So, when we say a silver blade or a blessed silver blade, and that's the only thing that can kill the beast or kill the monster, or you have to stake a Greek zombie through the heart with a silver stake, that's why.
Ah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was all super fascinating. And then the other thing that
Yeah.
I thought was really interesting is that most of the colonists, the colonizers who came to Milwaukee, were originally German immigrants. And it's interesting that the myths that we see today around Milwaukee really tie into werewolf myths and like shapeshiftery werewolfy myths. That the German stories of the 1500s started out with, including maybe one of the oldest records of a serial killer, depending on who you listen to. And because Dean, it keeps being framed for being a serial killer, and we know that the shapeshifter is the serial killer, I was like, oh, okay, that's a nice tie in. So the ancient German story is the legend of Peter Stumpf in Cologne, who is kind of like lauded as, I think, the recorded history, like the beginning of recorded history that has to do with werewolves. So his case took place in 1589 when he was executed. And I found a quote from an article that kind of sums up something well, where it says, Stumpf, we are told, was a straight transformed into the likeness of a greedy devouring wolf, strong and mighty with eyes great and large, which in the night sparkled like unto brands of fire, a mouth great and wide with most sharp and cruel teeth, a huge body and mighty paws. And that's why we get the idea that werewolves are evil and evil people can transform into werewolves. And you would need something holy like silver to drive the evil away and destroy the beast, right?
Yeah.
So hold that description of like werewolf dog thing in your mind for later. So there's a gentleman talking about the account of Peter Stumpf, and he says, when I read the account of Peter Stumpf in his life, crimes, trial, and execution, I was immediately aware, as any sane 20th century human being would be, that I was reading an account of a serial killer. Peter Sutcliffe had been convicted as the Yorkshire Ripper the year before. The case had horrified and captivated me, and I'd read about the crimes of Ed Gein, the cannibal murderer who inspired the book and the film Psycho. To me, there wasn't much difference in what Stumpf had done compared to the crimes of Sutcliffe and Gein, except for a space of 400 years or so.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
I thought that that was really interesting because there are two arguments, right?
Mhm.
Either Stumpf is one of the first serial killers or one of the first recorded serial killers, and people couldn't understand that, so they processed it by saying that he was a werewolf. That's one possibility.
Yeah.
Or it was like a witch hunt where the same kind of craziness that happened in Salem happened here, but their accusation was werewolf instead of witch. And they were kind of
Mhm.
similar things. So they made up all these things because Stumpf was a rich Protestant and Catholicism was fighting against Protestants at this time. He was a wealthy man, so he would have been a target for something like that. So the two main theories are either that he was a horrific serial killer and like he kind of got what he deserved and this is how they recorded it and understood it, or he was none of those things and he was maybe just a normal person who was executed in
Yeah.
a fit of like mass hysteria and political uproar.
Did
So
they accuse anyone else of being a werewolf at this time as well, or was it just him?
it starts with this case and then this whole hysteria spreads and loads of other people started being reported as
Ah,
werewolves.
so it could be
And
like
so
the witch hunt thing then.
yeah, it becomes like a witch hunt hysteria type situation. And then what I find really fascinating about this is like, so if you take the tact that like this guy pointed out, people will read the accounts and the things that he was accused of and be like, no, that's not real. But then when you look at modern serial killers and the things that they've done, you think, how's that? It's actually not any different from
No.
modern cases that have been recorded and people actually did that. So I think both are strong possibilities, and that ties in really well with
Yeah.
the theme of the episode of the monster of the episode doing horrific things and basically being a serial killer. Um, so then I found on Reddit that there is
Yeah, we love a
the
Reddit.
main I love a Reddit thread. A mainly Germanic population initially. So the myths and the culture are pretty German rooted. And you hear the account of Stumpf and what he turned into, and then you hear the accounts of something that they call the Beast of Bray Road that initially gets reported in
Mm.
like the 1930s, and it's so similar. It's weird. It gives me goosebumps kind of, but like this Redditor is called Upstairs Wrongdoer and posted, in brackets, serious question. People of
Yeah.
Wisconsin. What strange creatures have you seen or heard about in Wisconsin? Is there a local legend in your community? It doesn't have to be a personal experience, although I'd love to hear that too. I'm mostly interested in local legends. And somebody replied, and they are Pumpkin Spice Sensation. Sorry, Pumpkin
Good
Spice
name.
Nation is a good name. And they said, the Beast of Bray Road is the local legend around Elkhorn. Apparently, it's some sort of bipedal werewolf that rips deer in half and hollows them out. They made it an incredibly shitty
Ugh.
straight to TV horror movie about it. Um, and then another Redditor commented, a friend of mine swears he saw the Beast of Bray Road when he was driving home from bartending in the early 10s, I guess the 2010s. It was 3 a.m. and pitch black, and he said he saw the eye shine of a huge dog that went from 3 foot off the ground to over 8 foot off the ground when his car got close. He stepped on the gas and maxed out his speedometer. There's a saying in Appalachia that I think works just as well here. If you think you saw / heard something in the night, no, you didn't.
Oh, that'd be creepy
Yeah.
to see though.
And then My Blue Meadow replies and says, truckers have a thing about seeing a big black dog on the roads late at night. I wonder if there's something in the human psyche that creates that vision when it's pitch black and you're tired. And I was like, fair
Mm.
enough. But when I looked into it, it's not just this thread. There's also loads of local paranormal sites talking about the Beast of Bray Road. And they describe it with like either red eyes or like glowing eyes, exactly the same as in the werewolf account of Stumpf.
Yeah.
And that it's a like an enormous black dog or wolf-like creature, like a canine. Um, and every detail of the things that people are saying that they're seeing now matches what they say that they saw Stumpf turned into. And I thought that was creepy and fascinating.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of, have you ever heard of a bear dog?
No.
It was like a, let me find a picture. It's like, I think it was from like prehistoric times. People still say that they see it now. Um, it's got a proper name, but it's known as a bear dog. It looks a bit like more of a wolf or like, or maybe even a lion to me. Like this is what it
Mm.
looks like.
Oh, yeah.
But it
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
has like big dog
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah, for sure.
It just
It made me
reminded
think
me of
of all
that a
the
little bit.
black dog hellhound stuff and like the black shuck stuff that we were
Yeah.
just talking about. Um,
Yeah.
and I was just fascinated because that the story is pretty, I mean, I know that to a degree that is how folklore works, is that it gets passed down from generation to generation. Like light as a feather, stiff as a board has maintained its integrity from the medieval period, and that's fascinating. And it could be even older. Like I think it's even older. So there's something that both makes sense and is also really creepy and eerie about the fact that the initial werewolf account linked to this really scary set of horrible events is so identical to what people started saying they were seeing in the 1930s. And
Mm.
you have like the eye flares, and that matches up with the shapeshifter lore. So I also found that there's something called a ka in Egyptian mythos that is really similar to a doppelganger. And basically, they say that it was like a tangible spirit double that had the same memories and feelings as the person to whom the counterpart belongs, which is like what the shapeshifter seems to be able to do. So I thought
Yeah.
between that and the silver lore and the werewolf lore and the fact that this like the place has the same medieval lore as their ancestors would have done about creepy giant dog / werewolves. I was like, this is very cool. This is the lore drop for the episode.
Yeah. That was cool.
So we drop back into the scene and Dean picks up a letter opener from the desk, like we said before, and realizes that it's silver and he's like, oh, thank goodness. And then he tells Ron about the whole werewolf situation. Um, and then we go to the exterior, and there's a helicopter, a SWAT police vehicle, and the Channel 8 news team outside. So a red car pulls up, and a middle-aged man in a suit and a long coat gets out. He goes to the command van where several other officers are seated around monitors, and a uniformed officer is stirring a cup of coffee. And the detective says, "How are we doing?" And the officer says, "Another day in paradise." I wrote down, "Cops everywhere, cop apocalypse." And then I wrote down, "Look at this Timu version of Fox Mulder. I can't."
Yeah.
Because he has the Fox Mulder haircut, rough facial similarities, and, the same outfit kinda style
Uh-huh.
of Fox Mulder, and I was just like, "Wow, they are going hard."
We did have the same
Fo
note because I put the guy who gets out of the car, at first glance, I thought he looked like David Duchovny, and he definitely has a Mulder-esque look to him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the Wish version. He's Wish Mulder.
I
Um,
think he's called Mulder in my notes for the rest of the episode, by the way.
I mean, as far as I think, like, from what I remember, I don't think they gave him a name, so that's valid. They
They
just
gave
call
it
him.
he's Lieutenant someone.
Oh, is
I
he?
think I might
Okay.
have written it somewhere, but I've just been writing Mulder.
Oh, amazing. So then I wrote cut to cop drama. So we go to the interior of the bank hallway, and Ronald's following Dean down a wider hallway, still kind of laughing to himself. And Dean's like, "What are you, nuts?" And Ronald's like, "That's just it. I'm not nuts. I mean, I was so scared that I was losing my marbles, but this is real. I mean, I was right, except for the Nandroid thing. Thank you." And Dean's like, "Yeah, don't mention it." And he's happy to have helped another human being. And I was like,
Yeah.
"See, that's core Dean. That's like real Dean, you know?" Um, and then the power cuts and the emergency lights flick on, and Dean goes, "Damn it. No, 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 no." Like he has a little meltdown. And Ronald's like, "What? What is it?" And Dean says they cut the power, probably their way of saying hi. And Ronald says, "Who?" And Dean says, "The cops." And then Ronald's all shook, "The cops?" And I was thinking, my dude, what did you think was going to happen?
Walked into a bank with a gun, mate.
And you locked everyone in from the jump. Like,
You've got hostages.
I just don't, he has no common sense. Like, Ron was born without common sense in
It's because he
any
thinks
part of
he's
his
doing it
body.
to save them, doesn't he? He doesn't realise that people are gonna think he's,
Yeah.
trying to
He lives in his own fairy tale, I feel like. Um, so he's like, I didn't think that. And Dean's like, "Okay, okay, okay. Just hang on. Let's take a breath here for a second, okay? They've probably got us surrounded. They've cut the power to the cameras, so there's no way of telling who the shapeshifter is. It's not looking good, Ron." And he flinches at a noise in the distance and brings the rifle up, and Dean says, "Did you hear that?"
Wait, we skip one of my favourite quotes though, because he says, when Ron's shocked about the police being there, Dean's like, "Well, you weren't exactly a smooth criminal about this, Ron."
Yeah.
So they're back in the vault. Sherry is still being all heart eyes for Dean. And
Yeah.
she's quizzing Sam about him. Have you got the dialogue for this bit?
Has your brother always been so, wonderful? I mean, staring down that gun, you know the way he played right into that psycho's crazy head, telling him what he wanted to hear? I mean, and Sam's giving her this look. He's like a real hero or something. And Sam just goes, "Yeah, yeah, hating life." And at this point, I got sus because I was like, "Oh, are you the shapeshifter?"
Yeah,
And I thought it was her
not
then
yet.
because not yet, no. And then Dane comes in and she goes, "Oh my god, you saved
She's
us,
being a
you saved
fangirl.
us." Full fangirl. And Dean says, "Actually, I just found a few more. Come on, everybody, let's go, let's go." And so she gets very confused because she's like, "But he's the hero," trademark. "He's supposed to rescue me. I am the damsel." She's naming their kids in her head already. Um, so Dean says, "Sam, look, Ronald and I need to talk to you." So Sam goes out of the vault and they have a conversation. And Dean's like, "It's shed its skin again. We don't know when. It could be in the halls, it could be in the vault." And Sam's like, "Great. You know, Dean, you are wanted by the police." And Dean's like, "Yeah." And Sam says, "So even if we do find this damn thing, how the hell are we going to get out of here?" And Dane's like, "Well, one problem at a time. All right. I'm going to do a sweep of the whole place and see if we can find any stragglers. Once we get everyone together, we've got to play a little game of find the freak. So here." And he hands Sam another silver letter opener and says, "I found another one of these for you. Now stay here and make sure Ronald doesn't hurt anybody, okay? Help him manage the situation." And Sam, who is literally outraged, it's like, "Help him manage? Are you insane?" And Ronald looks over, and Dean looks past Sam and gives Ronald, like, a thumbs up. And Dean says really quietly, "I know this isn't going the way we wanted." And Sam's screaming, "Understatement." And
Understatement.
Dean's like, "If we invite the cops in right now, Ronald gets arrested, we get arrested, the shifters get away, probably never find it again, okay?" So Ronald's busy peering out the window in plain view, and Sam gestures at him in exasperation, and Dean screams, "Ron, out of the light!" And Sam's like, "Seriously?" In the tone of, like, one does not simply walk into Mordor. He's like, "Seriously?" And Dean says, "Yeah, Ron's game plan was a bad plan. I mean, it was a bit of a crazy plan, but right now, crazy's the only game in town, okay?" And, Dean slaps Sam
Yeah.
on the shoulder and leaves, and Sam sighs like he sees his life just going down the drain, okay? Hates everything. He rolls his eyes at Ronald, and then he says, "Hi, Ronald." And Ronald just blinks him. He just fully blinks him, and I laughed so hard. I cackled.
He hates him.
He hates him so much.
So then Dean is exploring the halls of the bank, and Sam goes back to the vault, and the Okie Dokie man doesn't look too good. So he's the guard from before. Um,
Mhm.
Sam says he'll leave the door open to give everyone some fresh air, but no one is allowed to leave. And then a phone rings, and Ron is very jumpy. I'm like, oh, I wrote in my notes, just what you want someone with a gun to be.
100%.
And Sam is still talking to the hostages, and Ron answers the phone, and Sam's distracted by the guard because he doesn't look very well and doesn't realise what Ron has done at first. And then he tells him to hang up. And on the phone, Ron is saying he doesn't have any demands and he's not a bank robber. He's a crime fighter. And Sam
He
just goes
says
over
it
and hangs up.
he says it like he's saying that he's Batman, but, like, he's
Yeah.
surprised and thrilled by the fact that he's it's so funny.
And that they're going to just understand what he's talking about.
Yeah, and Sam feels like he's hurting cats because he has this liability on one side talking to the cops, and then on the other side, he has someone who's potentially one of them probably is the shapeshifter. But then there's this also potential medical emergency. So he has three things on his plate at one time, and it's just a lot. And he's having a hard
Yeah.
day. He's having the
Hmm.
longest, hardest day. So then it cuts to the hallway, and I wrote, "Cut to Dean looking like a goddamn thirst trap." So it's a thirst trap, to no one's surprise. And I wrote, "Flashlight, check. Long hallway with flashing lights, check. Creaky floor that is clearly concrete, also check. Distance thump, check." Because it's like lining up all the horror tropes that I love,
Yeah.
but I could not get over the sound design where he walks and there's a creak. So it's like he's walking along a creepy, creepy floor. Except you look and it's concrete, guys. Concrete does not squeak like a wooden floor. And I was just like, this, honestly, this is the best. This is comedy gold, frankly.
I didn't notice that.
It's amazing. And my next note, because it cuts back and forth between that and Sam and the command center with a detective, okay? And Sam's trying to get a paramedic for this guy who is probably having a heart attack. And he's
Hmm.
arguing with the guy on the phone, the detective. And in the distance, Ronald's saying nobody's getting out. And they're having an argument. And I wrote down, Sam is looking for brownie points from the pretty girl who is really unimpressed with him. Because it honestly feels like he's trying to gain back some of his mojo or something. And
Oh, poor
oh,
Sam.
I could not. I could not laugh. Meanwhile, Dean's in the hallway still, and he looks up and he sees that there's something wrong with the ceiling panel. So naturally, he picks up something to poke it with because that's his default setting.
Yeah. What
Um,
was this? Was it like is this a coat stand?
yeah, it
Like,
is.
what was
Yeah,
it?
it's a coat rack
It's
stand
so
thing.
random.
So he pokes it with a stick because he's Dean. Um, and he manages to dislodge it. And against all odds of gravity and the ability of those ceiling tiles to hold the weight of this, an entire man falls out dead.
Yeah.
Um, and he turns it over, and it's the man who has been helping the guards. So there's like this super helpful guy, helpful.
Yeah.
And I was suspicious of both the old man at this point and also this guy who's being really helpful, saying, "He has to get out of here. He's having a heart attack. You have to get him help." Um, and now we know that it's the helpful dude who is actually the shapeshifter. And Dean's like, "Oh, fuck." So
Mhm.
we cut back to the vault, and the shapeshifter dude is still holding up the guard who is fully panicked and, like, really not breathing well. And the shapeshifter says, "Come on, man, you've got to unlock the front door. We've got to get him out of here." And I'm like, "You'd like that, wouldn't you?" Um, and Ronald says, "Both of you stay where you are," and he cocks the gun at them. And Dean comes back and whispers to Sam, the shapeshifter, to the dude, so they know who he is. And Sam goes into the vault and says, "You know what, Ronald? He's right. We've got to get this man outside. Come on, I've got you." And then he takes the guard away from the shapeshifter, and the shapeshifter's like, "Yeah, yeah, let me help you." And Sam's like, "I think the fuck not." But what he
Yeah.
says is, "I
No
got him.
thanks.
It's cool. Thank you." Yeah, he's like, "Just no thanks." Um, and Dean's glaring at the shapeshifter guy, and he steps up to the vault. So the guard is saying, "Thank you, thank you." And Sam's like, "Sure. Thank," and he just keeps saying thank you the whole time because he's dying and Sam is saving his life. So that's fair. So Dean walks up to the shapeshifter and he's like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And the guy comes out and he says, "You got the gun, man. I mean, whatever." And then as he gets close enough, he just suddenly attacks Dean, knocks him to the ground, and runs down the hallway after him. And I was like, Dean's track record with fighting shapeshifters is not the highest. Um,
No.
I feel like every time he gets into a fight with a shapeshifter, it's like he has like stormtrooper syndrome where he just suddenly doesn't do like I know they're supposed to be super strong. I do get that part, but it just feels it just feels like he just suddenly can't Dean
Mm-mm.
um a little bit. I wish the fight choreography portrayed a little bit better that the shapeshifter is super strong and that Dean is just getting like
Yeah.
kind of pummeled. That would make me happier.
So the shapeshifter runs off and Ron chases him with a gun and he stops in the middle of the floor. And then Sam notices what's about to happen and a red dot appears on Ron's back and he gets shot. And I went, oh no, poor Ron. And
It's
his
very
death
sad.
was very convincing. Like he falls to the ground.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, just really, it was a bit sad. I mean, he was silly, but it was sad because he
He's
was good.
like the naive, sweet fool, and so it's like the death of the
Yeah.
innocent, and it's really heartbreaking.
And he
And
really did just
Dean,
want to try and help everyone.
yeah, and Dean's so sad about it, and he's like, "Sorry, Ron, you did a real good job." And
Yeah.
that
Dean
part
looks really
is,
shocked.
yeah, it's really heart-wrenching, and really, really
Yeah.
sad.
In fact, I've written in my notes, Dean looks so shocked, trauma.
Yeah, just add to the trauma pile that he already has, because what he had before was not enough. Yeah, so we go back and we realize we're back in the present moment because we're back at the establishing shot, and it's basically exactly the same as what we saw in the very beginning. Um, and then we cut to the interior of the vault, and the hostages run out of the vault as Dean crawls behind
Oh,
another low
just
wall.
escaping.
Yeah, they're all just like la la la
Right, we're
la.
off.
Yeah, we're out of here. Near to where Ronald fell, and Sam ducks down behind him, and they're both kind of pantsy. And Sam pulls out a key and hands it to Dean, and he says, "Here, take care of the guard. I'm gonna go after the shifter." So he runs off, and this is where he says that he did a real good job. And then Sam goes
Yeah.
to this broom closet and opens it suddenly, and it's empty. And he hears something
Mhm.
behind him, and he turns, and there's Sherry, and she's screaming, and she and the other hostages kind of gathered around trying to escape, but she says, "Please don't hurt us." And Sam says, "You shouldn't be back here right now. You're in danger. Now go back to the vault now." And then they run backwards like fucking sheep.
This bit was hot though. So he's telling them off like naughty kids, and I thought this was quite hot. He was being very authoritative, and they
Yeah,
run
that's
off.
fair. That's fair. Yeah. So on the outside of the bank, Dean's holding the guard in front of him and kind of carrying him, and he has the rifle in his other hand. Um, and there's a load of paramedics, and Dean's saying to the guy, "Everything's going to be all right." And the guard's screaming, "No, don't shoot, please," to the guys to try to indicate that Dean is not the bad guy. He's not the hostage taker because he's walked out with a gun strapped to him. So Dean looks around at the media frenzy and says, "Son of a," and then he says, "I said, get back now," which, like we said, we're back at the beginning. And then we cut into the command center with the officer who looks like Mulder but isn't Mulder. And he's talking and he says one of the hostages seems to have taken over the situation. And the detective says, "Excuse me?" And then it cuts back in and Dean's saying, "Go, go, go." And the guard stumbles out the rest of the way towards the paramedics as Dean goes back inside, shuts the door, and latches it, and he's like, "We are so screwed." And he's
Mhm.
obviously thinking that he's wanted for murder in several states and that, he's fucked because now he's on the news in the middle of a hostage situation. It's
Yeah.
probably not gonna end well for him.
So then we go back inside, and Sam is in a stairwell, and he's found another puddle of shapeshifter goo, which is disgusting. And then he calls Dean to tell him, and Dean says that this is like playing the shell game. And I went, "What's the shell game?"
Okay, so a con artist has a pea or a ball, and then you have shells or cups, and you put it in the middle, usually to scam tourists, and then you say, where is it?"
Ah.
And you move
Oh, okay. I
everything
didn't know
around
that's
to
what that was
confuse
called.
people, and they usually bet and take money on it.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that's what it was called. I didn't know what that is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I wrote down that Sam patrolling for monsters was hot.
yeah.
Yeah, thought I should tell you that.
I mean, they're both pretty hot throughout this whole episode, actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, this is where the FBI show up. So this is where you think it starts to get stupid, and I agree
I
because I
have a
don't like him.
rant. Yep, yep. Um,
He's
so
Special Agent Henriksen.
yeah, yeah. And they have this massive argument because Cheap Mulder has decided that something fishy is happening with this. A lot like what happened in The Usual Suspects, can I just say? And they're having an argument back and forth, and Henriksen's going, "I don't give a rat's ass what you do. You can go and get a donut and bang your wife for all I care. What do I need?
Yeah.
Is your SWAT team locked and loaded?" That's what he says. And Robards is like, "Listen, agent," who's like Cheap Mulder, "something's not right about this. It's not going down like a usual heist." And Henriksen's like, "That's because it isn't one. You have no idea what you're dealing with, do you? There's a monster in that bag, Robards." And so we're supposed to be led to believe that he like somehow knows, but it's stupid. It's not that. It's because he thinks that Dean is a serial killer monster, and he wants to
Yeah.
just like kill everyone and everything, and he doesn't care about the hostages because Robard further. It's going to cut back and forth, but basically, to summarize it, Robard's like a human life, and the other guy's like, "Well, I don't really care about that because less people will die than if I just kill Dean, than if I kill all these hostages. Because if Dean gets away, he'll kill
What?
way more people because he's a crazy serial killer." Is
He's
basically what he
literally killed
says.
no one. Well,
No,
he-
yeah.
that's not true, but not the people that he thinks he's killed. It wasn't him.
He is a murderer, but not the kind that you think. Um, yeah.
I
So
just didn't
I
like this
wrote,
guy. He's really cocky and like really aggressive.
the thing that gets me is he is literally FBI Gordon. Like,
Yeah.
that's exactly what his character is.
And, like, from
And I
his
wrote,
point of view, he thinks Dean is a serial killer,
yeah,
so he would be
he
going after
thinks,
him, but yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's the he thinks that he's justified, but he's going too hard and he's too happy to kill. Um, so it's the fact that they're repeating Gordon's character again. And I said, whatever, this isn't really tension building, and you guys literally just dropped the usual suspects. And it feels a little played out to me right now because they did the usual suspects where they did the whole cop drama thing. Um,
And it wasn't
then
even that long ago. It's
no.
been, like,
So
what, for,
like,
like, 4 episodes or something?
yeah, so it's like they did Skin, and I guess Skin was super popular and they wanted to repeat that. So then they did the usual suspects, which is literally a few episodes ago. And then they repeated themselves again. And
Yeah.
it's just played out to me. It's just played out. And it just felt kind of
There should have been a
annoying.
bigger gap.
Yeah, for sure. For
Like,
sure.
give Dean a breather where he's not being chased for being a serial killer.
Yeah. Or keep that intensity up and make it terrifying and a major plot point, but not this
Uh-huh.
like drip and drab thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my rant. It's stupid.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thank you.
So we cut back to Sam and Dean, and Sam's looking around. Dean has rounded up some of the hostages, and Sherry isn't happy with him anymore because he's like,
No,
"I thought you were one of the good guys." And I just like, "Shut up, Sherry. He is a good guy."
I know she is really annoying.
And then it's Dean locks them in the vault again, and the phone rings, and he answers it, and it's the FBI guy, Henriksen, and he knows their names and he knows everything about them. So he calls Sam the Bonnie to Dean's Clyde, and I wrote, "Why is Sam always the woman?"
I wrote that down too.
Because he was Scully and Dean was Mulder earlier.
Yeah, they're always doing that to Sam.
So Dean asks him how he knows that they were there, and Henriksen's like, "Go screw yourself, that's how." I was like, "What? That doesn't even make sense." Dean
Yeah,
looks
it's so dumb.
confused, and I was like, "It's like how in the 90s people always used to say your mum about everything."
Kinda, yeah, it's like the police movie drama version of that.
Yeah.
Um, Henriksen says that he knows about the murder in St. Louis and the Houdini act that Dean pulled in Baltimore. And he says he knows about the desecrations and the thefts, and that he also knows about John. And Dean says, "You don't know crap about my dad." And then he goes on to say he's an ex-Marine, he raised his kids on the road, cheap motels, backwood cabins, a real paramilitary survivalist type. I just can't get a handle on what type of wacko he was. White supremacist, Timmy McVeigh, tomato, tomato. And Dean gets outraged and he says, "You got no right talking about my dad like that. He was a hero." And Henriksen basically says some sarcastic stuff, like about how, "Oh, sure, sounds like it."
Mhm.
Um, and Dean gets really angry. He gets hung up
Yeah, because
on,
he's
and
hit a
he,
nerve, hasn't he?
yeah, he bangs his head in frustration as he hangs the phone up. And then Henriksen continues to be an unlikable prick, tells them that they've got 5 minutes when he told them that they had an hour to sort out the situation. He then tells the police
Yeah.
that he's giving them just 5 minutes. And Cheap Mulder is like, "What the fuck? You're a crazy psycho." And then we cut to the hallway, and Sam sees blood on the floor. I wrote, "Interior, Sam finds blood. Sherry is dead. Sherry faints. Plot twist." Because what happens is he sees blood on the floor and he opens it, and Sherry falls out and her throat's cut, and Sam's like, "Damn it." And then he goes back into the vault, and Dean's like, "We've got a problem outside." And he's like, "Yeah, we got a problem in here too." So they open the vault, and Dean says, "Sherry, we're gonna let you go." And she's like, "What? Why me?" And he says, "It's a show of good faith to the feds." And she's like, "I think I'd rather stay here with the others." And he's like, "I'm afraid I'm gonna have to insist." And then there's this long pause, but she can see the silver knives. So she's on to them. So they push her back into the hallway. And then she says, "I thought you were letting me go." And Dean shoves her forward, holding her head and forcing her to look at the body, which is her dead with a throat cut.
Yeah.
And she screams and then she passes out. And
The dude says, "Is that community theatre, or are you naturally that good?" with her screaming.
yeah, yeah. So she faints. And then they look at her totally confused. And Dean
Mm.
uh, is ready to kill her. Um,
Oops.
and raises it to kill her. And Sam's like, "Whoa." And I wrote down in my notes, "Sam's a thinker." Sam says, "Dean, wait, what's the advantage of this plan? I mean, fainting now wouldn't help it survive." So he looks at the other body and he goes, "Huh." And we can see that the air quotes corpse is actually breathing pretty well in the shot, which I think is it's supposed to be like that. So the
Yeah.
shapeshifter knows that it's in danger now and grabs Dean by the throat. And then he struggles, stabbing at it. And then Sherry wakes up to this, again, nightmare scene of herself being attacked. And she's screaming. So Sam goes over and just swoops her up to take her away. And Dean's like, "Get her out of here now." And then he keeps fighting with the Sherry slash unsherry thing. And then she does this perfect palm strike to his chin, and then she bolts. And I write down that was a perfect palm strike. That was like so, from a martial arts point of view, that was incredibly nice. Everyone should
Yeah.
learn to do that too, because it's an awesome self defense move, and you do not have to be strong to protect yourself that way. It's great. Everybody look it
I
up.
have to
Do it.
I have to just say the only creepy sort of scary-ish bit of this episode was the bit where Dean's kind of looking back and the shapeshifter when you were saying about the shapeshifter breathing, but
Yeah.
she starts moving in the background. She's kind of blurry. It's not focused on her. It's focused on Dean. And that bit was quite
Uh,
creepy because I was like, "Oh no, she's still alive."
yep. Yep. That is very spooky and very creepy. And I agree with you. It's that moment. And it's when Ron gets shot and dies. Those are like
Yeah.
worst parts of the episode in terms of like you go, "Ah." So Dean's hunting and he turns and he gets slammed in the face by Sherry, the shapeshifter, which is funny. Sherry, the shapeshifter. Um, and then he goes down. And then we cut to an interior hallway where we see Sam, who turns abruptly, and there's two armed policemen there, and he just takes them out by himself.
Uh-huh.
so
That was hot.
fast.
He just
That
knocks them
was
all
hot.
out. He just swings around. There's like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
It is it's
that
sexy.
was Thirst Trap.
Uh-huh, 100%. So then we cut back to the boiler room. Dean has recovered and settles into a fighting stance. He swipes at the shapeshifter with a silver blade and it avoids the attack, retaliating. They tussle. He gets in 2 good headbutts. He slashes at her again. She grabs his wrist and then wrenches it up, and he grabs her forearm, and her skin slips off. Like it just
What?
rips all the way down her arm. It's
That was
disgusting.
rank.
And Dean goes, gross.
Yeah. But then she
and
kicked him in
she
the nuts, which was funny.
She does, and that is funny. And then also several times in the face. He grabs her leg and wrenches it back, shoving her against the wall. They struggle like that for a moment before he manages to ram the silver blade into her chest, and she's screaming. She slides down, hears the sound, and turns around. And I wrote down, number 1, why the fuck is she suddenly in her underwear? Number 2, small rant about women in stunts having to do stunts without any protection because they're basically performing stunts naked, which means that they can't have pads or any other protection. And that's annoying to me and fucked up. They are now, like in modern times, making it better for stunt women, but because of the way that
Yeah.
women's bodies are exploited for the male gaze, there have been so many stunts that have been done with the stunt women basically naked with no protection. And I just want to say,
Mm.
like, they go hard. They go harder than the boys because they do it like with nothing, no pads, nothing, because they can't.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
because it would show up on camera and look weird. So stunt women are badass. End of small rant. Um,
definitely.
then my next note is that awkward moment when you're constantly looking like a deranged serial killer. Because a uniformed man enters the room with a flashlight and stops, and you can only see his boots. And I was like, oh
My
dear,
boots.
my boots. Um, yeah,
So then Henriksen arrives with more SWAT who are clearing the corridor as he walks down it. And they find the first body. And he calls him a goner. I was like, okay.
yeah.
Um, and then they find shapeshifter Sherry, and one of the team says he just walked her out of the bank, so this must be her twin or something. All right, yeah, it's something, all right. And this scene,
Mm.
right, this is my Die Hard reference. So this scene reminds me of the bit, where John McClane's killed one of the terrorists and puts him in the elevator, and then it
Oh
opens and
yeah.
he's got, now I
And
have a
now I
machine
have
gun, ho ho
machine
ho.
gun. Ho ho ho.
Yeah, and
Classic.
it's when they find Sherry like slumped against the wall. It reminded me of that.
Yep, that's valid.
So yeah, that was my reminded me of Die Hard.
Yeah, and also the police flip out the way that Hans flipped out. Um,
Mm.
so that's pretty decent.
It's
So
like Dean's John McClane in this, and he's left a little haha to the police.
yeah, exactly. Henriksen flips out and says, "You tell your team to tear it apart, the ducts, the ceiling, the furnace, everything." And the officer's like, "I don't think that's necessary." And Henriksen says, "Why not?" And then he takes him to this broom closet where 2 men are stripped in their underwear, handcuffed back to back on the floor and clearly unconscious. So we're supposed to be misdirected to believe that it's Sam and Dean who've been
That's what
like,
I thought to start with. Yeah,
yeah, that's the misdirect. So
yeah,
Henriksen nods in frustration, and the Styx song "Renegade" starts playing. The "Oh Mama, I'm in fear for my life" from the long arm of the law. But as they're
yeah.
saying
This is
that, it
good.
cuts to the exterior, and there are 2 incredibly sexy uniformed SWAT officers walking out, and they casually walk over to the Impala and get in. And you realize that it's Sam and Dean. They knocked out those 2 dudes and stole their uniforms. And
Yeah,
Styx is playing, "Lawman is pulling into my running, and I'm so far from my home. Oh, mama, I can hear you crying. You're so scared and all alone. Hangman is coming down from the gallows, and I don't have very long." And so it's so badass and hot. And I was like, all is
uh,
forgiven. All of the other mistakes and stupidness are forgiven for this one scene. So they get into the car, they pull off their masks, and they're kind of panting, and it's so sexy. And I was like, this is the biggest thirst trap that has ever been a thirst trap that I've ever seen in my life. In any show, in any movie, in anything ever, this is the biggest one. And Dean says, "We are so screwed." And Sam nods.
hmm
And then Dean starts the car. And Sam is just kind of in the passenger seat and exhausted. And they pull out of the parking lot, and Styx playing again. "Oh, mama, I'm in fear for my life" from the long arm of the law, like with the badass riff. And then it just ends. Then it
yeah.
just ends.
Well, this scene was one of Jared's favourite as well, apparently, because I found this fun fact, which says Jared Padalecki, Sam Winchester, has said that the episode has one of his favourite music cues in the entire series, Styx
100%
Renegade,
agree.
and he
Yeah.
thinks it's badass the way the a cappella intro starts as the boys jog away in their SWAT uniforms, but then breaks as Dean says we're so screwed and then crashes in as they drive away. That's one of his favourite bits. That's cool.
100%. It is so smooth and so perfect. I could not agree
Yeah.
more.
And then we have this just a very abrupt ending, and I just I suppose it is kind of wrapped up, but when I was watching it, I felt like it wasn't wrapped up at all. Um,
Yeah.
and I have written in my notes, two-parter, question mark, question mark. But then I had a quick peek at the next episode, and it doesn't look like it is a two-parter. So
So this part of the storyline will pick up again, but I think they skip it for a few episodes because they don't want to
okay,
traumatize us too much. Um, but yeah, no, it does. They do a few more like cop policey on the wrong side of the law
trying to
things.
get Dean for being a serial killer.
Yeah, but it's just so sexy. They're all like stealing SWAT uniforms and
Yeah,
like going like rolling out in the Impala, and they take the masks off pretty simultaneously too, and it's just like, oh, that's straight into the games. That's my thirst trap of the episode. That is the only thirst trap that is acceptable in this episode, I feel. So it has to be the same for both of us, I feel like.
well, I did have a different one actually. It's FBI Sam
I
with his
mean, that
hair.
is hella sexy. Don't get me wrong. But I just feel like that with sticks and they're walking and it's like slow motion ish, but not slow motion. And then they take the masks off of this. Oh no, there's nothing that compares in my opinion. That's like the best thirst trap ever. And then the
What was?
hotel we know is a yes from me
Oh,
and a no from you.
yeah. All right. Beer themed one was a little too weird for me, but it's still fun. It's still themed. I'd
It
still
just
go.
it just hit all of my bisexual nature. I was like, it's beer, there's brick, it looks raw, it looks kind of low key
What?
butch. Awesome.
Okay. um, feeling hot or not? There's like too many. I was like, who is it?
Yeah,
All
I
the
don't know how to
shapeshifters?
answer that. I don't
I
I
just
don't know
put
how to answer
no,
that. We're just
no
nah,
to any of the
just skip it.
shapeshifters.
Just yeah, just skip.
um, episode scare rating. It's not really scary.
One?
Yeah. Well, I put
Yeah, it's
three,
not
but yeah, I think that's too high. I just wrote it's tense, but it's not scary.
yeah, exactly. It's tense, but it's not like, oh, there's not even a jump scare. There's
The
gore
only one, the only
ish.
one that could be a jump scare is kind of when that bit where Sam kicks the closet door open and then we see someone behind
Person.
him and he turns and then it's just like Sherry and
Yeah.
that lot and they're like, ah, that was kind of a
Yeah.
jump scare.
Yeah, I guess.
What was your favourite quote?
I circled it. Hang on. There's this part. Honestly, like I love the Mandroid parts so much, but there's this part where Dean says, "I'm not just gonna walk in here naked," but he does that Texas accent creeps in, and he says it like naked. And it was the biggest draw ever, and I loved that because of his draw. So I chose that one purely because of his accent. And I was like, Southerners gotta represent.
I don't even remember that bit. I wrote down Sherry saying, he's so brave, all Sweeney, and then Sam doing an eye roll.
Like I love that so much. If I was gonna have chosen a different one, I feel like it would have been like one of the Mandroid ones.
Yeah.
Um it would be, you see he's got the laser eyes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Um, is there an MVP? I don't think there is. I've
I
got
don't
Ron question
uh,
mark, Dean question mark, Sam question mark.
yeah, no. Like cuz Ron is also the biggest liability.
Yeah,
Sam
definitely.
is not doing his best work ever, and Dean loses so many points for being kind of a lech, honestly. Also, he's not as good of a fighter as he normally is. He just randomly isn't as good against shapeshifters, apparently. They're like his kryptonite or whatever. I don't know. It just eh,
Yeah.
there's no MVP.
Right. And that's all the games, I think.
Yep.
Um
That's the end of the episode.
Did you have anything to wrap it up?
Mm, I'm just still distracted by how sexy the ending scene is with
Yeah, that was a good ending.
the uniforms and the music. Like, I will never get over how good that was. It lives rent free in my brain from now until for. I might have to rewatch it. Actually, I might have to just rewatch that scene like a few times.
Yeah, I think I might be as well, actually. I think that's it then.
I agree.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. We would be very grateful. And if you know someone who would enjoy it, please share.
You can find us on Instagram at the Witches of Letters podcast, or you can email us at thewitchesofletters@gmail.com.
Until next time, stay safe out there, have each other's backs, and always keep fighting.